Welcome to today's edition of Just the Truth. Glad to have you join me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Former President Donald Trump is asking the U.S. Supreme Court to extend the delay in the trial stemming from Special Counsel Jack Smith's 2020 election interference case, arguing that he has presidential immunity to protect him from prosecution. The migrant crisis could flip the state of Illinois to purple. Local Chicago Democrats are warning Mayor Brandon Johnson. And in the wake of the National Sheriff's Association conference in Washington, D.C., Sheriff Richard Jones of Butler County, Ohio, is sounding the alarm over national security threats posed by illegal immigrants and potential terrorist activities within the country. Did you see this one coming? A trio of House committees investigating President Biden are asking the Department of Justice to turn over the transcripts and recordings of Joe Biden's interviews with Special Counsel Robert Hur following the release of a report critical of Biden's cognitive abilities while reviewing his handling of classified documents. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Your text are welcome on the Furman Ford text line. You can leave me a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome. Joey@joeyhudson.com.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
So let's start with former President Donald Trump, who yesterday asked the Supreme Court to extend the delay in the trial stemming from Special Counsel Jack Smith's 2020 election interference case, arguing that he has presidential immunity to protect him from prosecution. Trump's attorneys yesterday filed the emergency appeal with the Supreme Court, just days after a D.C. appeals court ruled that the former president and, of course, 2024 GOP frontrunner is not immune from the prosecution in Smith's case. The request is for a temporary relief to stay or block the appeals court mandate from taking effect, which would give Trump and his legal team more time to file an appeal to the Supreme Court on the merits of whether a former president deserves immunity from criminal prosecution for the actions while he or she was in office. The trial stemming from Smith's case against Trump is on hold pending resolution of the immunity question. The Justice Department may ask for expedited consideration of this initial emergency appeal. The request states, if the prosecution of a president is upheld, such prosecutions will recur and become increasingly common, ushering in destructible cycles of recrimination. Criminal prosecution, with its greater stigma and more severe penalties, imposes a far greater personal vulnerability on the president than any civil penalty. The request adds the threat of future criminal prosecution by a politically opposed administration will overshadow every future president's official acts, especially the most politically controversial decisions. The request states that the president's political opponents will seek to influence and control his or her decisions via effective extortion or blackmail with the threat, explicit or implicit, of indictment by a future hostile administration for acts that do not warrant any prosecution. It went on to say this threat will hang over like a millstone around every future president's neck, distorting presidential decision-making, undermining the president's independence, and clouding the president's ability to deal fearlessly and impartially with the duties of his office. The filing comes after Washington, D.C. federal Judge Tanya Chutkan earlier this month officially delayed the trial, which was set to begin on March the 4th, which is a day before the critical Super Tuesday primary contest, when Alabama, Alaska, American Samoa, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Maine, Massachusetts, Minnesota, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Virginia, and Vermont vote to select their GOP nominee. Chutkan said in December that she does not have jurisdiction over the matter while it's pending before the Supreme Court, and she put a pause on the case against the Republican 2024 frontrunner until the High Court determines its involvement. Smith charged former President Donald Trump with conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of an attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. Those charges stem from Smith's investigation into whether Trump was involved in the Capitol riot on January 6, 2021, and any alleged interference in the 2020 election result. Trump pleaded not guilty to all charges back in August of last year. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Your texts are welcome on the Furman Ford text line. Leave me a quick voice message as well, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. So a trio of House committees investigating President Biden are asking the Justice Department to turn over the transcripts and the recordings of President Biden's interviews with Special Counsel Robert Hur following the release of a report that was critical of Joe Biden's cognitive abilities while reviewing his handling of classified documents. Now, we saw this one coming, didn't we? The request, sent in a letter to Attorney General Merrick Garland, echoes GOP leaders critical of the Justice Department's conclusion of the report, complaining that Biden received more favorable treatment than that of his 2024 campaign rival, former President Donald Trump. The chairs of the three committees wrote, the Committee on the Judiciary requires these documents for its ongoing oversight of the department's commitment to impartial justice and its handling of the investigation and prosecution of President Biden's presumptive opponent, Donald J. Trump, in the November 2024 presidential election. They asked for the information by February 19th. The request from House Oversight and Accountability Chair James Comer, House Judiciary Chair Jim Jordan, and House Ways and Means Chair Jason Smith. The Hill.com argues that the cases are different, writing that Trump repeatedly rebuffed law enforcement as it sought to return the return of classified records stored at his Florida estate, a process that escalated to a subpoena he failed to comply with, resulting in the search of his home and the seizure of more than 300 records with classified markings. On the other hand, the Hill says, Biden's team alerted authorities to the discovery of classified records at his prior office and home and cooperated with the investigation. Now, of course, this was after the spotlight had been focused on Donald Trump. So Biden suddenly, knowing that he had these documents and had them for years, rushes to the DOJ to say, oh, I may have some documents like he has in my old office, or I may have some in my garage, but don't worry, they're by my Corvette and we keep the door locked. That's basically how this came about. While critical of Joe Biden, Special Counsel Hur ultimately concluded that there's not enough evidence to support charges that Biden willfully retained the records. But the report also included numerous comments and editorial of her or by her about Biden's ability to recall details during the interview, details Republican leaders are eager to zero in on. They wrote, although Mr. Hur reasoned that President Biden's presentation as a, quote, sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory who did not remember when he was vice president or when his son Beau died posed challenges to proving the president's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, the report concluded that the department's principle of prosecution weighed against prosecution because the department has not prosecuted, quote, a former president or vice president for mishandling classified documents from his own administration, they wrote. The one exception to the department's principles of prosecution, as Mr. Hur noted, is former President Donald Trump. This speaks volumes about the department's commitment to even-handed justice, some would argue. The Justice Department confirmed that it had received the request, but declined to comment on it. Democrats last week predicted this was going to happen. They predicted that Republicans would seek to review Hur's work. House Judiciary Ranking Member Jerry Nadler wrote last week following the release of the report. Here's his quote. MAGA Republicans will no doubt now call to investigate the investigators. It's their favorite move, but the Hur report effectively ends the discussion, he said. President Biden cooperated fully with the special counsel and redacted no portion of the special counsel's report. He also added that Hur's report shows that if Trump had cooperated with the Department of Justice, instead of lying to investigators again and again, he may have avoided charges entirely. Now, again, this was Jerry Nadler, the Democrat from New York, making this argument. House Oversight Democrats yesterday cast the request as yet another in a string of floundering investigations designed to damage Joe Biden. The committee, in a statement, said Republicans continue to burn millions of taxpayer dollars to fuel Trump's never-ending demand for lies about the president. Their newest request is more of the same, and in fact follows the Gang of Eight already reviewing every document that was recovered from President Biden last year. The special counsel was unequivocal in his statement that there was no comparison between Joe Biden's conduct and Donald Trump's, the committee said in their statement. Now, with all the money the Democrats spent impeaching Donald Trump twice, now they're suddenly concerned about spending our money on investigations when the investigation involves them, when the investigation involves one of their own. They're suddenly worried about the time and the effort spent on the investigation. The Hill article makes the argument that the transcripts could provide key fodder for Republicans eager to portray Biden as too old to remain in office. House Speaker Mike Johnson, Majority Leader Steve Scalise, Majority Whip Tom Emmer, and Conference Chair Lee Stefanik said in a letter last week, among the most disturbing parts of this report is the special counsel's justification for not recommending charges, namely that the president's memory had such significant limitations that he could not convince a jury that the president had a, quote, mental state of willfulness that a serious felony requires. So basically, again, and we talked about this a lot last week, the report says that Joe Biden is just a feeble old man who's lost his memory and is not capable of being prosecuted. But they're going to leave him in office. He's capable of being president of the United States. He's just not able to be prosecuted. They added, a man too incapable of being held accountable for mishandling classified information is certainly unfit for the Oval Office. And that is an argument I think we all can make. Hur has come under fire from both the White House and former Democrat appointees to the Department of Justice, who said that he acted inappropriately in offering excessive commentary about Biden's memory, while explaining the weakness in the case that pushed him to decline recommending any charges. Former Attorney General Eric Holder chimed in. He served under President Obama. You remember him. He said on social media shortly after the report was released, Special Counsel Hur, his report on Biden classified document issues contains way too many gratuitous remarks and a flatly inconsistent with longstanding Justice Department traditions. Neil Katyal, a former acting Solicitor General, again under the Obama administration, said during an appearance on MSNBC, totally gratuitous. I guess that's the Democrat word of the week, gratuitous. Totally gratuitous, he said. After all, earlier in the report, it says Biden has all sorts of innocent explanations for his behavior. It feels like a too clever move by the special counsel to try and take some swipes at a sitting president, and it doesn't sit well with me at all, he said. And I do think that it's very much in tension with the Justice Department guidelines on special counsels. We shall see. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line. The migrant crisis could flip the state of Illinois purple, according to some local Chicago Democrats, warning Mayor Brandon Johnson that this could be a bad thing for Democrats in Chicago. I'll give you all the details on that in just a moment. First, let me talk with you about your health and about losing weight. Did you decide that 2024 is the year that you're going to get healthy? Is this the year that you're going to lose that excess visceral fat that has accumulated around your waist that is so dangerous for you? Well, I've got the solution for you. PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. Go to myphdweightloss.com, sign up today, or you can give them a quick call, 864-252-4925. Set your appointment today and see if this is the program for you. After 3 years, I've been able to maintain the weight loss of just over 30 pounds. And that's the key to PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. Boy, am I glad I made the call over 3 years ago when I was introduced to Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team in the Greenville office at PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. They have an Asheville office, a Charlotte office, a Lake Norman office. And if you're listening to me right now, doesn't matter where you live, you can do the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition program virtually. We've had listeners in Pennsylvania, in Alabama, in Illinois. Doesn't matter. If you want to get healthy and you want to lose that excess weight, call PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition right now. 864-252-4925. Again, online, myphdweightloss.com. PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, the official partner of the Clemson Tigers. So a National Review report spoke with various activists and Democrat candidates on the growing number of migrants in the city. This is in Cook County in Illinois, Chicago, Illinois. The Cook County Board of Commissioners candidate, Zerlina Smith Members, was particularly vocal on public funds being used to house migrants instead of helping the city's homeless. She said, "We have people who have come here illegally who have jumped to the front of the line." She also rejected Johnson's frequent attempts to blame Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott for the migrants, noting that Chicago is a sanctuary city. She said it's a Biden thing. It's a Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker thing. It's a Brandon Johnson thing. They wanted sanctuary cities. It's not Abbott's fault because he didn't ask for it. We asked for it, she said. She added, it's just a lot and it's overwhelming. Peace activist Dr. Laura Chamberlain similarly pushed back on the idea that Texas Governor Greg Abbott was the cause for Chicago's problems, saying what state could possibly take in millions of refugees. Other residents had similar fears, as it appears that a closed grocery store on the south side of Chicago is being turned into an immigrant encampment, with local residents asking questions about some work going on. The city was not answering. Here's a report from the Chicago local Fox affiliate of what's happening at this local former grocery store location.
Well, back here at home, despite months of pushback from neighbors, a migrant encampment on the city's south side is becoming a reality.
Residents who live near 115th and Halsted say construction has been ramping up over the last several days, and we saw it for ourselves today, yet officials have not been forthcoming about the details. Casey Cronus live downtown with the latest. Casey?
Dana and Natalie, we have asked again and again, but still don't have a project timeline from the mayor's office. Tonight, a spokesperson tells me they are looking into the site's infrastructure before starting construction. But whatever work was being done today was soon out of view. Behind a newly installed chain link fence that surrounds a once bustling grocery store, there's no denying that movement is being made.
Yes, I heard they were out until 1 o'clock in the morning.
But it's progress that on Sunday, crews were quick to cover up, just minutes after we got there. First, a water department truck was positioned directly in front of our Fox 32 camera, seemingly trying to obstruct our view. But that's not all. Workers soon lined the fence with a black screen.
As a taxpayer, it makes me feel horrible. I feel that we have a corrupt system. They are not listening to the people.
Residents, including Annette Kane, have been speaking out against the encampment since the very start.
So now I'm looking as a single mom, what about us?
Like Kane, Jaquetta Vaughn's concern stems from a lack of resources for residents.
How about build something for the kids, the community? But instead, this is the first thing that you do is build a tent city.
City officials are adamant a mixed-use housing development planned for the same site will go off without a hitch next fall. But neighbors say they're losing hope.
I don't believe if it happens, it won't be for us.
Meanwhile, community activist Patrick Gibbons says he is turning up the heat.
What we want to do is we want to file an injunction against the city of Chicago.
Gibbons says he hopes to take legal action by Thanksgiving.
The mayor's office should be more transparent, and there's a lack of communication all the way around.
We asked the mayor's office when the encampment will be operational, but they didn't answer that question. We also contacted Alderman Ronnie Mosley to see if he would share any more details with us, but did not hear back. Reporting live downtown, Casey Cronus, Fox 32, Chicago.
Others pointed to a growing resentment among the African American community over the preferential treatment of migrants. Southside activist Tio Hardiman said the reality is, if you look at Chicago now, you have high unemployment rates among African American youth in particular. You have a lack of mental health services in Chicago. You have thousands of homeless people in Chicago already that were never, ever focused on like they were focusing on these illegal migrants, she said. I'm not against them living their lives. It's creating too much competition between poor people in Chicago that never, ever received this level of support. Never, ever, she said. Hardiman said Johnson's policies on the issue have really discouraged him. If I was mayor right now, I would make an executive decision to bring an end to sanctuary city status in Chicago, he added. I'd get rid of it because we're not prepared to deal with it. The National Review reported that Smith members is attempting to launch a recall against Johnson over the migrant crisis. There's a division in our Democrat Party. It was weakened. It is going to get worse, Smith members said. The city of Chicago voters have woke up. The state of Illinois voters have woke up, and they're not standing with our old leadership. She declared the immigration crisis is going to flip the state of Illinois purple. The mayor's office did not respond for comment. According to numbers reported by local ABC affiliate WLS, more than 35,000 illegal immigrants arrived in Chicago in the last half of last year. By the way, and I talked about this in one of my very first editions of Just the Truth, in a Fox News column written by Betsy McCarthy, if you think offering migrants luxury hotel rooms, free meals, laundry service, transportation, health care, and immigration lawyers is excessive, just wait until they can vote, she wrote. Democrats are pushing to allow non-citizens to vote in local elections in New York City, Boston, and other municipalities, as well as statewide in Connecticut. Now, you can go back and listen to this episode as I shared this full article written by Betsy McCarthy at the time, and this was back last fall when she's predicting that the Democrats want these people in their cities. And the next thing is they will allow them to vote locally. Just scroll down in today's show notes, and I have a link to this episode. Go back and listen to it. Go back and listen to what Betsy said then, and then think about where we are today. Chicago is not the only place that people are sounding off against the chaos of Joe Biden that he's allowed to happen at our southern border. In the wake of the recent National Sheriff's Association conference in Washington, D.C., Sheriff Richard Jones of Butler County, Ohio, is sounding the alarm over national security threats posed by illegal immigrants and potential terrorist activities within our country. You're going to find this interesting. First, let me tell you about my friends at Furman Ford. Are you looking for a new vehicle? Do you need service on your existing vehicle possibly? Maybe you need just a good, dependable used vehicle that you can trust. You can find all of that at Furman Ford in Lawrence. It's more important than ever for us to support locally owned businesses. Businesses where you can walk in and meet the person who owns it right here in our community. And that's what you're going to find at Furman Ford in Lawrence. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line with every single transaction. You can find Jim Furman, Matthew Furman at the dealership. When you call, when you text, when you email, when you stop by the dealership, you're going to have a chance to talk with one of the Furman family members right there in the dealership. And I promise you, they're going to treat you right. The next time you need a new vehicle, whether it's a good used, dependable used one, or you need service to your vehicle and you don't want to have to wait 2-3 weeks or a month or more, call Furman Ford. And by the way, you do not have to have purchased your vehicle at Furman Ford to actually have it serviced there. And it doesn't have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Find them online at FurmanFord.com, FurmanFord.com. Ever heard of Sheriff Richard Jones? Ever heard of Butler County, Ohio? Following his return from a meeting where FBI Director Christopher Wray shared insights into the current threat landscape, Jones has made it his mission to ensure that his department is ready to face any potential threats. During the conference, Jones learned from federal agencies that there are more red flags for potential terrorist activity than there were prior to the September 11th attack. With the U.S. currently engaging in military action in 2 countries, Sheriff Jones highlighted that some of the thousands of people from over 160 different countries. Sheriff Jones says these people did not come here because they like us. They probably came here, many of them, harboring ill intent. Here's the sheriff.
From a national sheriff's training in D.C. 2 days ago, we were briefed by the FBI director, Wray, the director of the FBI, and several federal agencies. There's 3,300 sheriffs in the United States. The President of the United States refuses to meet with the sheriffs of the 3,300. We have a hierarchy. We have a president. We have a vice president. President of the United States refuses to meet with the sheriffs. He also refuses to meet with the police chiefs of the United States. They have a hierarchy also. He refuses to meet with them to talk about border issues or talk about crime that's going on because of the border issue. We were also told by Mr. Wray, the FBI director, that there are more red flags going off now than before 9/11. Okay? When I say red flags, meaning people that are here in this country that are wanting to do harm to us. We were also explained we're bombing 2 countries right now. 2 countries. These people do not like us before this started. There's thousands of people here from other countries, 160 different countries. They're here not to be our friends. Some of them are coming because they're wanting to come here to the best country in the world, the way we see it. Some are coming here to do harm to us. And we were told by the FBI director, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. We were also told 5 sheriffs went to Israel 5 weeks after the attack. The only thing that saved the Israelis, the government, was the local police. They were outgunned, outmanned. They came over. The Palestinians did. They came over. They killed, raped. The sheriffs were there. They talked to the police. The local police are what saved that country. You can't just call, even in Israel, you can't just call the military up and they're going to be there, okay? They went house to house, raping, killing. The Israeli police, when our guys got there, the sheriffs, said they just don't hate us. They hate you guys equally. And the same people that train them are the same people that train people to hate us. The FBI director said when 9/11 hit, there's more red flags now than then. So, and he said, these are people that want to kill us and do harm to us. Now, so you're wondering, I want everybody to know what I know. I can't tell you everything, but I want the public to know that we are in a terrible way right now. The United States, and I'm going to get to the local, the United States, we're on the defense. You can't be just defense and not have an offense. We have no offense. We're just defense. We're absorbing these attacks. We're in other countries. We're supplying them with weapons. We're supplying them with our treasure, our money, and we're not doing much back home.
Drawing parallels to Israel's security situation, Sheriff Jones underscored the essential role that local law enforcement could play in national security. He recounted that the Israeli experience where local police were critical in responding to attacks, suggesting a similar reliance on local law enforcement here in the U.S. could be necessary. In a somewhat stark revelation, a surprising revelation, Sheriff Jones highlighted the refusal of the current U.S. president to engage with the national sheriffs and police chiefs, as you heard, on pressing security issues, particularly those related to border control and the resultant crime surge. This, according to Sheriff Jones, signifies a troubling gap in the nation's defense strategy against such threats. I think the sheriff probably just realized Joe Biden does not care. Joe Biden does not care about the security of our community. Despite these warnings, Jones insists that his aim is not to incite fear, but to ensure the public is informed and prepared for the challenges ahead. He said, "We're under attack," urging citizens to remain vigilant and supportive of law enforcement efforts to safeguard their communities and the nation at large. On the Furman Ford text line, Susan writes, Susan corrected me, saying Trump actually has 63 delegates so far, 20 from Iowa, 13 from New Hampshire, 26 from Nevada, and 4 from the U.S. Virgin Islands, and he will have 113 after he beats Haley in South Carolina. You're right there, Susan. Jeff says most of Taylor Swift fans are 12 years old, so therefore they cannot vote. This was in reference to, we talked about Taylor Swift, of course, being at the Super Bowl on Sunday, and the fact that Taylor Swift is somewhat political. She endorsed Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, probably expected to endorse them for re-election. A lot of people think, oh, gosh, that's the death threat. Well, you know, if you go back and you look at when Taylor Swift first became politically active, she was determined to defeat Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn. She was not successful. She was able to register a lot of young people to vote, and good for them. They just didn't turn out at the polls. Jordan and Joanna writes on the Furman Ford text line, "Hey, Joey, not a fan of the NFL. I prefer college. Go Gamecocks." Jordan, thank you. He says, but my oldest daughter told me something funny that she had seen. She said that Generation Z kids will say, hey, look, Taylor Swift's boyfriend won a trophy at the Usher concert last night. Now, that's funny. Usher, of course, did the Super Bowl halftime show, if you didn't tune in. Now, that's funny. Thank you, Jordan. He says, anyway, Kelsey acted like a spoiled child who didn't get his way, of course, referencing her boyfriend who kind of had a little physical confrontation with the coach. Texter writes, Joey, Nikki had about 250 at her rally in Greenwood, and the paper called it a crowd. What a joke. Don't think she had that many in Lawrence. Our text of encouragement today from the God Shot. This is by Tara Lee Cobble. She's the creator and host of one of the most popular podcasts being produced today. It's called The Bible Recap. And over the course of a year, she reads through the Bible in just 15 minutes or so every day. She features certain scripture from the Bible. So what if we start doing this together? Not her full program, of course, but she has these little things that she calls God Shots. What do you think? You want to give it a try? Also, let me give you a little heads up. I'm working on a project for first responders. I'll give you more details on that. So our God Shot for today, or our text of encouragement, whatever you want to call it. Matthew 6:25. Therefore, I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about your body, what you will put on. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? And the commentary on this, and I'm going to sort of summarize it for you, is these words from this particular scripture falls in the middle of Jesus' most famous sermon, the Sermon on the Mount. The verse opens with therefore, which means Jesus is making a connection between the specific truth that he mentioned in the previous verses and why it's important for us not to be anxious about our life. In the verses prior to this, he says it's because this life isn't where our focus should be. And that's right, isn't it? You can't worry about something that you're not focusing on. Instead, Jesus says we should aim to focus on our true home, which is in the next life in God's kingdom. The things that cause us anxiety are often things that are passing away, but Jesus wants us to focus on the things that will last, and that's eternity with him. Are you anxious over temporary things? What's disrupting your peace today? Think about these things. Where do you feel like God has forgotten you? Talk to him about it. You can trust him, and his trustworthiness is the only thing that can truly set your heart at peace. He's where all the joy is. That's our God shot for today. What do you think? You want to maybe share one every day or so? Love to get your comments. Text me on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. I really do want your feedback on whether or not you would like for us to. We've been doing sort of a text of encouragement. Why not do sort of a focus on a particular scripture just quickly every day? Early voting in South Carolina's Republican presidential primary has started. Polls actually opened yesterday. Before we get into the details, let me tell you about Discounted Appliance Warehouse. If you need a new appliance, maybe a new refrigerator, or you need a repair like I had to have just this past week when the lights went out in my refrigerator, Johnny came over, quickly found the problem, fixed it. I mean, it took him less than 20 minutes. That's the kind of service you'll get from Discounted Appliance Warehouse. They treat you like family because you're more than just a credit card swipe with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. Appliances are expensive. You want to get it right. And I promise you, with the knowledge they have, and it's amazing what these guys know about appliances, and they'll help you choose the right one for you and your family. They have over 11,000 square feet, slam-packed with over 1,500 appliances, so you're not going to have to wait when you get your appliances from Discounted Appliance Warehouse. Quite often, you can buy it today and use it today. That's just how quickly they can get it out for you. They have an award-winning service department, as I mentioned, Johnny and his team, extended warranties, and they have you covered well beyond the sale. They'll take good care of you. It's where I buy all of my appliances. I hope you will too. Find them online at dawpickens.com, dawpickens.com. So any of the state's 3.1 million registered voters who did not participate in the February 3rd Democrat presidential primary is eligible to cast a ballot in the GOP presidential primary now. State GOP Chairman Drew McKissick has estimated about 1 million people could vote in the February 24th primary. So before heading to the polls, here's what you need to know. Polling places may have been combined. County election commissions have the flexibility to combine locations in primary in order to save money, or maybe they just don't have the staff to staff all of them. So check first. You can go to scvotes.gov, scvotes.gov to check where early voting locations are in your county. You can. It's real simple. You just put in your address and it'll pop right up for you. Polls are open between 8:30 a.m. and 6 p.m. now through February the 22nd. So who's on the ballot? 7 names are on the South Carolina GOP ballot. Pastor and businessman Ryan Binkley. Bet you've never heard of him, have you? Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, Air Force Major and Florida businessman David Stuckenberg, and former President Donald Trump. Now, I know you're thinking, well, I didn't realize there are going to be so many names on there. I thought it was Nikki Haley and Donald Trump. Well, some have come off. Chris Christie, for example, Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy have all withdrawn from the race. The South Carolina Election Commission said they will have signs posted to say who no longer is running in these elections. They withdrew too late to have their name removed from the ballot. And you're going to be voting on more than just for president. There's some issues, some questions that the state GOP wants your opinion on. You'll see 3 advisory questions on the ballot. The questions were chosen by the state party. They have no legal effect, but allow you to signal state lawmakers where you stand on 3 issues. One is the question that we've talked about a number of times over the past several years. Voter registration by party. South Carolina does not have registration by political party. We have an open primary. The question has appeared on primary ballots since 2018. Registration by party is a top priority for state Republicans, according to Mr. McKissick. The question is, should South Carolina law be changed to give people the right to register to vote with the political party of their choice? I'd love to get your comments on that. Text me a quick note on the Furman Ford text line. Do you believe that we should be allowed to register by party? The other question plays into the ongoing debate about judicial reform, and at the State House as lawmakers debate the process of how they elect judges. The question is, should South Carolina adopt reforms to increase the independence and accountability of our judiciary by improving transparency and reducing conflicts of interest in the process of reviewing judicial qualifications and electing judges? One question deals with tort reform, and it's about helping small business. The South Carolina Republican Party said in their explanation of these primary questions, the current law allows a plaintiff to go after a person with the deepest pockets, no matter how much responsibility they may have in the incident. The party says the question is about making sure liability is proportional. So here's the question. Should it be an immediate legislative priority to protect South Carolina's competitiveness and small businesses by changing state law so that a person's responsibility for financial damages in a lawsuit is based on that person's actual share of responsibility? So 3 questions for you that you'll need to be prepared to answer. Again, they're not legally binding, just advisory, so that the state GOP can take these 2 state lawmakers and show them, here's what the people of South Carolina who voted in the GOP primary, here's how they feel about these issues. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Appreciate you joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list, please do so. By the way, I appreciate a couple of you sent me a note saying that you had trouble completing one of the forms. That's all taken care of. Appreciate the heads up, but it works now. Go to joeyhudson.com. It was working before. It just seemed to maybe not send the information on. We did get all your information. joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button, and you'll receive our emails and most up-to-date news. Also, find me on YouTube. Just search Joey Hudson. And if you can't find me, send me a quick text, and I'll send you the link for that, too. Appreciate you spending a few minutes of your day with me. We're back again tomorrow. You keep those comments coming on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Keep the emails coming to joey@joeyhudson.com. And remember, folks, God's got this. He's still in control.